So when ATM turns to Cue Ball and says he don't know about Killer City, he's referring to Kansas City, and KC is on one of the hats that I'm going to put at the first of this video. KC Kid is the YouTuber who took the video using this homemade Santilli telescope of the sky, which I zoomed into and extracted images of the airborne aircraft carrier. KC, or Kansas City, is a city that straddles the state of Missouri and the state of Kansas. When you're on the Kansas side, you're in Kansas City, Kansas. When you're on the Missouri side, you're in Kansas City, Missouri. And Independence, Missouri is just a little ways away from the main Kansas City. Or maybe it's even in the larger Kansas City metroplex or whatever. So when ATM tells Cue Ball, this guy, he don't even know about Killer City, he's referring to Kansas City, and that's why. And so I met ATM the first day. Here's a little bit of my story. Oh, yeah, I know what you're going through. I've been through that same stuff, but you should really talk to my homeboy Cue Ball. You'd really like talking to him. The next day, ATM and Cue Ball are sitting there at the Starbucks. And I roll up and, meet my homeboy Cue Ball I was telling you about. Me and Cue Ball start hitting it off and talking in a very fluid back and forth way. And ATM just kind of sits on the sideline. He's like the sidekick. You can tell of the two of them, Cue Ball is the senior, has seniority, has some sort of level of understanding and awareness and coherency and ability to speak fluidly about these subject matters that ATM really doesn't. And somehow that is why ATM kind of sits on the sidelines. I mean, he's in the car while we're talking. He's walking beside us while we're talking, but he just chimes in a little bit here and there. ATM, I'm not even going to say his full name, but it stands for Adam, and he told me his middle and last name too. I feel like it's almost a sacrilege. It's taking something that is sacred to me and blowing it out there for the profane, whether it's Cue Ball's social media account or ATM's full name. And I had his phone number and his text messages that we text back and forth. Anyway, so Cue Ball is kind of like the mentor there for me for the purpose of introducing me to this new reality that I'm just getting a taste of and that is blowing my mind. That he's like, oh yeah, I've been through that before. So is he. And it's about when ATM says, yeah, when I was going through it, I thought I needed to wake everyone up and save everyone. I thought I was Jesus. When I mention my implant, like I said, this is just going to be pieces of what I remember, not a sequence in chronological order. When I mention my implant, and that I found one on my sister and my ex-girlfriend Amber and my buddy down the street, Dusty, Cue Ball says, oh yeah, I got like 3 or 4 implants. I don't know if he said 3 or 4. I think it was a specific number, not like 3 or 4. I think he said, yeah, I got a few or 4 or something like that. And I asked, where? And he named different parts of his body, none of which were behind the ear. If I was in my right mind, I would have said, let me see, let me feel. How do you know you have these implants? In order that I can know it's not just in your mind. But I didn't, because I wasn't questioning that type of shit. I could tell that this guy, something different about this conversation. I couldn't have the conversation that I was having with this guy with anyone else around here. It was very clear. They are here for the purpose of having this conversation with me. And so the conversation continues, whether we're standing in a parking lot beside the car or we drive a little bit here and there. At one point, he was talking about his mentor, right? When he tells me, yeah, I had a guy who kind of helped me through the process of awakening like what you're going through now. And he was, to me, kind of, I guess, like what I am to you now. He said that guy, I said, no, who is he? Where is he? Do you still talk to him? He says he shows up every now and then when I need him. And he told me that his main message was share the love whenever you can, wherever you can. And one thing Cue Ball said, when I was explaining shit, he said, we call ourselves Kindred, and most of the people back there at that camp are Kindred. And that we came here to help these people, but they don't want our help. They want to keep doing what they're doing. And when he said, we call ourselves Kindred, I had already picked up a girl named Becca. I saw her holding a sign, right? Flying a sign, cardboard sign, hungry, need help, whatever. And I was down to my last couple bucks, but I went and gave her a couple bucks. Ask her what she was, I don't remember exactly how the conversation went, but I know at one point I asked her, "You been seeing this stuff in the sky?" And she said, "Yeah." I said, "Well, you just hang on," because she was telling me about this dude who was trying to pimp her out. Said, "You best go fly a sign or you're going to have to sell your pussy, bitch." I said, "Well, you just hang on, because the guys that ain't treating the girls right, they're about to get theirs." And as I was walking away from her, I saw another dollar on the ground. It was raining, but it was in April in Missouri. It wasn't cold. Saw another dollar on the ground, picked it up and went back to her. It was a wet dollar, but I gave it to her and told her, "This is kind of how this works. Everything I give away, I get it back." And you'll see that later on, I gave it all away. All away. I've done that more than once. And so, Becca, this girl that I first initiated contact with, she explained to me where she is living at this camp, kind of like a homeless camp, just down the road a piece by the Trafalgar type of fun center up there. And she had me drop her off at one point. As you around this curve, there's kind of like a trail that goes up in the bushes there, and she had me drop her off there because that's where she was staying. And the reason I mention that is because when Cue Ball says just about everyone back there at that camp, at first I think he said everyone back there at the camp is Kindred. Well, almost everyone back there is Kindred. We call ourselves Kindred. And when he said we call ourselves Kindred, and almost like everyone back there at that camp is Kindred, and he said, and I have seen more Kindred come through here in the last couple months than I have seen in my entire life. Something big is going down. There is a major movement underway. I've seen more Kindred coming through here in the last couple months than in my entire life. Like we're on the move. The point at which he said we call ourselves Kindred is when I was riffing about all the stuff that I had been saying before I left for Missouri. Like the vertical, the beam, remove the beam from your own eye, and only then will you be able to see clearly to remove the moat from your brother's. What is this beam and the moat? In the parable of the beam and the moat, everyone likes to change the wording. It's the speck from your own eye and the twig in the other guys, or the log in your own eye. I've gone off about this many a times. You look up the images, beam, parable of the beam and the moat images, and you'll see paintings, murals, and sculptures of a guy with a big 4x4 post sticking out of his face. And if Jesus spoke in parables that were so unable for anyone to relate to, because never has anyone had any such experience of a 4x4 post sticking out of your face, no one would remember a single word that he said. But if the beam and the moat, and that's why everyone changes it, no one likes to call it the beam and the moat. They refer to the speck and the twig and the dirt and the sand and the dust in your own eye, not the beam or the moat, because a beam is a vertical pillar, a post. And a moat is a circle within a circle. And you can see these things on the cover of Eurythmics' album with Missionary Man. Annie Lennox has a vertical slit pupil, a beam. The guy in the band, whose name I don't remember right now, has a human pupil, a circle within a circle, like a moat. And if Satan and Jesus are brothers, and Satan was the serpent in the garden, what does that make Jesus? And what does that make God and all of the rest of his children? Mommy, that's a 5-year-old question that people don't like hearing. It was when I was riffing on this type of shit that Cue Ball says we call ourselves Kindred, and almost everyone back there at the camp is Kindred. As if he was referring to me as one of them, he was certainly referring to himself as we call ourselves, when he said we call ourselves Kindred. And if he had gone through the same awakening that I had, and he had a mentor that led him through it, it seems to indicate that I too am Kindred. When I went to the Mormon church one time, the bishop walks up as I'm sitting there, and he says, "What are you doing here? What'd you come here for? What?" I think he didn't say it that rude or abrasively. He said, what brings you here?" I said, "I just want to be in a place where people got the kindred spirit, be around some people with the kindred spirit." He says, "Oh, it's a good place for that." Smiles and goes about doing his thing. But he said that his mentor, while we were standing in the parking lot, his mentor, the guy that led him through his awakening process, gave him one main message: share the love. Whenever you can, wherever you can. We came here to help these people, but they don't want our help. They want to keep doing what they're doing, so share the love. And he was like approaching people. This is what I mean. It's kind of weird. I was kind of nervous because he was drawing attention to us, when he would like, hello sir, how you doing? It's a great, beautiful day, isn't it? Yeah, yeah. And he was like trying to be cheerful to people walking by, and you could tell they would recoil and think that he was about to ask them for money or some shit, like he was a homeless man about to trying to break the ice, open conversation, and then ask you for money. You could tell they would all recoil. But as Cue Ball was telling me, this is the main message that he received from his mentor when going through his awakening, was to share the love whenever you can, wherever you can. You'll see some of my videos on the way out there. One of them is titled, Love is the Key to the Heartland. And this was a main part of my message, and maybe that's why ATM said he don't know about Killer City. Maybe he heard me saying some shit about love and compassion and understanding and empathy, and he was like, dude, shh, don't say that shit around here. If someone overhears you, you're going to be a mark. And they're going to say, oh, we got one over here. Easy target. This guy don't know about Killer City. And so Cue Ball was the main guy that I had most conversation with, that clearly showed me you're not alone in the process you're going through. The spirit that led you here is not just in your head, because it coordinated and orchestrated a network of people. Cue Ball and ATM are just two of the network of people I'm going to tell you about and explain my interactions with. Proves the spirit that led me there is not in my head. It did not mislead me. I ended up right where I was supposed to be in order to have these interactions with these people. And you can say, well, it was like gang stalking, and they redirected their forces, or they called someone in whatever city you were going to end up in order to intercept you and have that weird interaction with you. But gang stalking doesn't come up and interact with you directly. They all just kind of secretly, elusively fuck with your head by making themselves known in the background, right? Anyway, I didn't know where I was going. I knew that I was headed somewhere near the Kansas City, Missouri borderline, to a place where I had delivered food before. That was the impulse that I had when I left Utah. I knew I was to head east. And I told other people, head east. Even if you only have a half a tank, God will meet you the halfway with the other half tank. Fill up your gas tank, empty your bank account, rack up your credit cards, and let's go. It's graduation time, Earth School graduation time. I didn't even know where I was going until I was most of the way there. And it occurred to me that my ex-girlfriend Amber, the one who spotted the black dots in the video that I showed her, that I recorded the day before I left, the one who has implants behind both ears, she's also the one that appeared in my recent video, the Blue Beam Christmas video. The girl in that video is Amber. And I remembered she had told me that it's kind of it's kind of a hush-hush thing, but she said she asked someone like in the Relief Society, where do we go at the end times in the latter days when it's time for us to roll out? And whoever she asked told her, well, we don't really talk about that much, but we go back to independence. That's where they got persecuted from and ended up in Salt Lake. And about 3/4 the way there, that occurred to me. And I was like, oh, that's where I'm going. I didn't even know where I was going until I was almost there. Yet when I got there, I'm greeted by this network of people who were clearly there to receive me as if I was the guest of honor. And my interactions with them proved to me, and this is why those interactions mean more to me than plasma fire, airborne aircraft carrier, black dot craft, sun tunnel, portal in the cathedral, microchipped population. All of those experiences of mine don't add up to the interactions that I had with these people. The interactions I had with these people proved to me that there is a network of people, and I use the word people loosely. Technically, I'm an alien, who were part of my experience, proving to me that the same spirit that leads me, still small voice within, is connected to and associated with an orchestrating, coordinating force that also brought them to that point of meeting place, for that rendezvous, for that interaction, for the purpose of leaving me with the experiences that I was left with, that reassure me this is all happening. Everyone's going to have to go through this experience as well. And we're all getting a chance to show our true colors. This was 9 months before C-19 happened. And I was headed out there saying, this is it. This is the end of this era of human existence. This is Earth School graduation day. I'm going to get my cap and gown on. I would also say, if it's a prison, the warden is handing out deferred sentences for good behavior. 9 months before C19, everyone's like, dude, you're tripping. It's not the end of the world. Now, everyone thinks it's going to be this year, 2024. So the interim period between April 19th, 2019, and today has proven this wasn't all in my head. This is it. This is the end of this era of human existence. We came here to help these people. They don't want our help. Look at Annie Lennox. That was from the Eurythmics album cover. That was before CGI. That was before the internet, when reptilians was a pop culture terminology. So maybe I'll move on from cue ball and ATM and talk about some of the other people that I interacted with that proved to me that there is a large network of people like the Truman Show backstage actors that come out on stage for the purpose of interacting with Truman during his process of awakening. And I intend on doing the same thing. For the next Petri dish over, for the next culture of consciousness next door, after this one's emptied out and reseeded, when they're going through their Earth School graduation process and they think they're the only thing that ever existed in the world and they're still in the ignorance of Truman, thinking that the world is as they believe it is, all it takes is a little bit of casual interaction that they will be able to reflect on later on in their life and recognize what it was. But they're a loose cannon, and it's dangerous being around these people. They could go this way, they could go that way. They're volatile. Sometimes they resort to violence that reveals their true colors. So you're taking a big risk by going and interacting with these people during that process where they're a loose cannon. And they're very unstable and volatile. But by doing so, once they regain stability and return to their senses, they can reflect upon that experience and that casual interaction that you had with them. Yeah, I've been through what you're going through. Yeah, we call ourselves Kindred. We came here to help these people, but they don't want our help. They just want to keep doing what they're doing. Share the love. That's the big takeaway from this. That's what my mentor told me to take away from our interactions when I was going through my process that you're going through now. And just that little bit of casual interaction will leave them with enough that they will be able to rely upon it for the remainder of the Earth School graduation process, should they choose to remain, which is what I did. When these other girls told me to come with them, and they were clearly knew who I was and why I was there more than I did. Because I was in the parking lot of Walmart, cranking up the Bone Thugs of Harmony. Music up, windows down, like throwing out the bat signal. Because the music was speaking to me in ways that it never had before. We in the last 5 days of these trials and tribulations, and I'm waiting for the good Lord, please don't give and forsake me, caught up in the duel with the devil, Satan. So I'm casing the situation while I'm drunk, I'm scared, heavily sedated, wonder will I make it to them pearly gates, nigga? Well, I burn off in that late night. When you're feeling the earthquake, shaking the dead awake, how many made it? Too late, it's over now. Nigga had lack of faith, so life ain't straight if you ain't capable. Having a little trouble? Better plead the bloody Jesus. Hold on, now can I get a witness? Shout out, I'll do ya. Amen, I'm feeling that Holy Ghost making moves through ya. Smoke, I'm able to free your mind with rhythm my kind design. In world drop dimes, there's no other like my kind. Come murder one, come murder one, come murder one, come murder one, murder them all. And I'm blaring this out the window, volume up, windows down, and some girl across the parking lot from in her car say, hey! And I know, roll over there, let's go talk. And I roll up next to him, say, hey baby, what you doing? She's black. She's got the bling in between her teeth like silver and gold. And she gets out of her car, it's a SUV. And there's a couple other girls in there with her. As soon as I roll up, girl from in the back seat leans forward, looks out the passenger window. She's in the driver's seat looking at me out the passenger window. And the girl from in the back seat leans forward and, oh, he cute. The driver turns back to her and said, cute ain't got nothing to do with it. Anyway, baby, what you up to? How you doing? What's up with you? What you want to do today? Yeah, I don't remember exactly what she said, but she was very approaching me. And she got out of her car and come over. I was still sitting in my car, and she'd come over to the driver window. And she says, what you like, babe? We about to go have some fun. We about to party. She said this a few times. As soon as my auntie get the fuck out the stove, and she screams it back towards the Walmart. And we're in the far end of the parking lot of the Walmart. So I know that no one can possibly hear. She's not actually trying to signal her auntie. Unless maybe your auntie's standing in front of the Walmart and notices, oh, my ride's clear over at the other end. But anyway. She said, we about to go party. We're going to go hang out. What you like to do, baby? You like meth? You like weed? You like alcohol? What you do? I was like, oh, I don't really drink much. I smoke a little weed, but no, not meth. She's like, you don't like meth? I was like, no, you're for real? I was like, no, I've done it a few times. It makes me feel like an old man, all sucked up and dehydrated the next day. She's like, all right. I just want to know what make you happy, baby. That's word for word what she said. I just want to know what make you happy, baby. I said, being around other happy people. That's what makes me happy. She's like, all right. All right, well, we're going to go party. You should come chill with us. Come hang out. I was like, all right, but I got to go get these other kids back to the garden. And at the time, I was referring to cue ball and ATM. I think. I didn't know who I was referring to. In the long run, I think it's the last 5 years of my experience, I chose to stay here for the Earth School graduation process so we could go through this together and maintain in a limbo of ignorance, of not knowing. But they were asking me to go with them. And I refused. I rejected the offer multiple times. She said, come hang out with us. I said, I got to get these other kids back to the garden. She's like, no, baby, I got the kids. Yeah, I got the kids. Don't worry about it. Come hang with us. I said this 2 or 3 times before she told me, no, I got the kids. Come hang with us. And she said, all right, get out the car. Come here. I said, all right, I get out. She takes me over to the SUV, opens the door, shows me 2 little kids in the back, about 2 years old and 3 years old, a couple black kids, and they were both all smiles. I could tell these kids were well taken care of. I've met plenty of ghetto kids, and they don't smile at strangers. Whether it's my sisters and the kids that they raised, or some of my trailer park friends and the kids that they raised, I know what a ghetto kid does when they meet a stranger. It's a scowl, it's a uncertainty, it's a hesitation and a fear and an apprehension of who the fuck is this new person in my life, and just get away, go away. These kids were all smiles. And I said, that's good that you got these kids. I got some other kids I got to get back to the garden, though. She said, all right. Let me get your number and we'll hang out later. That ain't how a normal person hitting on someone else in a parking lot, just getting to know them, trying to exchange phone numbers, maybe going to go hook up later, interacts with someone. The first words out of her mouth were, cute ain't got nothing to do with it. If cute ain't got nothing to do with it, what does have something to do with it? Why are you, what is your agenda? What is your objective? Why are you wanting to interact with me and have a conversation? If cute ain't got nothing to do with it, clearly we're not operating on the standard hitting on someone in a parking lot form of interaction. There's something else going on here if cute ain't got nothing to do with it. And when I say I got to get these kids back to the garden, most people be like, what, you got kids? You talking about kindergarten? You got to go get your kids to kindergarten? What the fuck you talking about? She didn't say none of that. She said, don't worry about it, baby. I got the kids. That ain't how a normal person responds to someone making that statement. Don't you worry. If she assumes that I'm talking about my kids and I got to get them to kindergarten, don't you worry, I got the kids. It's totally out of the picture as a possible response. When she repeated 2 or 3 times before she got me out of the car to show me, I got the kids, don't you worry about it, come with us. She wasn't there for the purpose of hitting on someone, some random stranger who she didn't know. She knew who I was and why I was there more than I did at the time. But I insisted. I got work to do. I'm going to stay here. Sometimes I regret making that decision. Sometimes I wish I would have gone with them. Because I know, as real as the fucking microchip behind my ear, as real as those trees that are burning from the inside out all around us in this world, those girls were not of this place. They were in this world, but not of this world. And the spirit that led me, let's go there, Jesus was in this world, but not of this world. There is functionally no difference between synthetic telepathy, Like the idea we have of this technology where they can beam voices into your head, whether or not you have an implant, this idea of synthetic telepathy, they tune into the frequency of your brain waves and then send, like a radio signal, send a voice down the carrier wave that's tuned to the frequency of your brain waves and locked in, synced up, and then they can talk to you through a still small voice within, electronically with some sort of new magic technology. Functionally, there's no difference between that and the still small voice within. Likewise, functionally, there's no difference between the Holy Spirit, still small voice within, where you hear from Jesus, and aliens communicate with me through telepathy. But if you say it that way, people will say, get the fuck away from me, lock this guy up. He's a danger to himself and others. He says that aliens are communicating with him through telepathy. But Jesus was not of this world. By that definition alone, that is extraterrestrial. That's alien. And that's on little bumper stickers that got the Christian cross, and I didn't know what it means. And a long time ago, I asked my girlfriend, she's like, oh, that's a Jesus reference. It means N-O-T-W, not of this world, because that's what Jesus said he was. Okay. So if he's not of this world, but he speaks to people through the Holy Spirit, through this still small voice within, that's functionally exactly the same thing as communicating with aliens through telepathy, which is a still small voice within. And if you say it one way, you get locked up in a padded rubber room. But if you say it the other way, these Christians heap praise and reverence upon you. Oh, you hear the one who's not of this world through the still small voice within. I'll praise you, brother. Amen. Because they worship personality over principles. I worship principles over personalities, function over form, substance over style, and ideals over idols. But they worship idols. And if you say it's a little green man, not blonde-haired, blue-eyed baby Jesus, that's an icon that represents their beliefs, a idol. They're not into the ideals and recognize that idealistically it's exactly the same thing. If you say it one way, they heap praise and reverence upon you because you're referencing their idol. But if you reference ideals that are exactly the same but put different spin on it, you put a different form of words, they don't recognize the function is the same. You reference a different idol, they don't recognize the ideals are the same. You reference the same substance, but in a different style, they reject it. You reference the same principles, but there's a different personality. You don't reference Jesus, you don't reference my idol. So functionally, there's no difference between I communicate with aliens through telepathy or I communicate with Jesus, who was not of this world, aka alien, foreign, through a still small voice within, and he communicates through the Holy Spirit. Same thing. Synthetic telepathy, same thing. But these people and my interactions with them prove to me that the spirit that led me there did not mislead me, even though I didn't know exactly where I was going until I was 3/4 the way there. They met me there for the purpose of this rendezvous and this interaction, proving the spirit didn't mislead me and it's not just in my head. Real quickly, I will say that I have experiential knowing without conceptual understanding. I have the knowing that I have from these experiences that I've had. But I do not conceptually have an understanding. And I used to think, well, if you know something through experience, surely you understand it better than someone who just knows it through book reading, knowledge that they gained through some other means. Now I know you can have knowledge through experience and not have conceptual understanding of that experience. So don't expect me to be able to explain all this shit and understand it. I know it from my personal experiences, but I don't understand it. Many of the details of how it works and who they were and where they live and where they come from and why they interacted with me the way that they did, I don't know. But I do know the experiences that I had and that these people were not normal people. Technically, they were aliens, because any normal people would have interacted with me very differently. So now we'll get to the police officers, and then we'll talk about the locksmith, and then we'll talk about the guy on his... Anyway, so let's do police officers. One day I'm sitting in the parking lot of a quickie, like a Circle K quick trip. I believe it was a quick trip. It's just a quick trip. And I'm sitting in the parking lot, and the cop rolls up and says, yeah, we saw you here a couple times. I'm not sure if he got a call or if he saw me there a couple times. My car was dirty as fuck. When I rolled in there, I considered washing my car, but then I thought, no, it's a badge of honor as a form of communication to others that know there's people coming to this party from all over, traveling long distances to get here, and I'm one of them. That occurred to me. No, I don't want to wash my car. I want to leave it as a badge of honor. And at one intersection, I see these girls hanging out the window, almost like they just come from a high school football game, and they were cheering and whistling, but they were looking at me as they went around the corner, and like cheering and whistling and cheering me on, almost as if they saw and knew. But when this cop rolls up and asks me, what are you doing here? I don't remember all the things I told him, but I told him I'm here for a wedding. I'm with the father of the bride, and it's going to be a star-spangled celebration. He knew I wasn't there for a wedding. He knew I was speaking of greater concepts and understandings, metaphorically. The next day at 4:30 a.m., I ran out of gas. I had zero money left. I drove my car because I fell asleep at the Giacomo campground at the Giacomo reservoir, and the cop comes and knocks on my window early morning and says, wake up, move along. Okay. Start my car and drive. A mile or so later, runs out of gas. And so I pull into this guy's driveway because it's a narrow road, two ways, and I don't want to just stop right there in the road or I might get hit. So while I'm still coasting, it was a split-second decision. While I'm still coasting and I still have some momentum to get off this road, I see a driveway. I pull up in it, and I see some guys back in there near the garage walking around, and I walk up to him and say, hey, I just ran out of gas. Any chance you guys could help me out with a gas can or something? He told me, wait in your car. Okay. I get back in my car. Like 4:30 a.m. in Killer City, you don't fuck around with some guy saying he ran out of gas and he's just here to see if you'll help him out. A few minutes later, someone else drives in and shines a spotlight in my back window and then drives around me. And this was probably another one of the guys that was there getting ready to go or work together or whatever. And then a couple minutes later, cops roll up, ask me what I'm doing there. And I was as honest with this cop as I was with everyone on YouTube about what I had done, what led me here, my understanding and my lack thereof about the process that I was engaged in, why I was here. But I told him everything, including the truth about I had a car full of stuff. And I emptied it out. It was all the things of the greatest amount of value that I could pack into this car. By the way, there was 10 pieces of plasma wood included in that stuff. There was a cooler full of ammunition, shotgun and .22. The shotgun was mostly personal protection rounds. That includes a slug and 4 or 5 buckshot. I packed my car full of everything of value, the most value of all of my belongings that I could, and took it there with me, and it was like an offering, a sacrifice, a contribution. And in that was 10 plasma-fired pieces of wood, smaller pieces. Anyway, I told this cop everything I could. When every question he asked, I answered honestly and added and gave detail. Wasn't trying to be apprehensive and not tell him too much. I had no fear of this cop and how he might respond to me, or of anyone else who I interacted with at the time. Zero fear. The governor was turned all the way off. And so I told this cop everything. That kind of shit, if he was a regular cop, would have taken me in for your own personal, you obviously need some help, we'll get you the help you need, 5150, 72-hour mental health evaluation, and if you tell the shrinks back at the department what you've told me, then obviously it might be a little more than 72 hours that you end up being there. He didn't do that. He could have said it, and I have it all right here on my body cam, so let's just be honest with the shrink when you get there, okay? Because I'm going to give this recording to them. He said, I know you're here for a reason, and you've been trying to do things your own way for a while, but this guy's just trying to go to work, and it's like 4:30 in the morning. You're here in his driveway. I gotta find a way to get you out of his driveway, and if you can't find a way to get some gas in the tank, I'm going to have to tow you. I called my sister. She gave me a credit card to pay for the towing bill. Otherwise, they were just going to tow it to the impound yard. If I couldn't pay for any of it, they were just going to tow it for free to the impound yard. And then once I got the money to get it out of impound, I could have done that. But I had a text message I showed this officer from KC Kid, the one who took the video on the Santilli telescope that I extracted the images from of the airborne aircraft carrier. And at first, when I start scrolling through these text messages to show this cop, the one I'm looking for, he says, those are all from you to him. Finally, I get to the last one that's from him to me, and it says, I've cleared out some of my garage for you so you can pull your car in there. He says, okay, I guess we can tow you there then. And it was in Olathe, Kansas. Like 30 miles away from where we were, or something to that effect. Otherwise, I had nowhere I could have towed the car to, even if I could pay for the tow. So they would have impounded it. But I called my sister. She gave me a credit card number that allowed me to pay for the tow. And then I showed the cop this text message, because he knew that I don't know anyone here. Showed the cop this text message, and he says, okay, I guess based on that, I can have your car towed to his house then. Because it says right there in the text, I cleared out spot in my garage for you. The next morning, by the way, there's videos of all this. I'm in his driveway, his front driveway, and there's a Cadillac Escalade in the driveway with a cracked windshield. I think that's the truck that he took the video from of the Santilli telescope, because it's hanging right on the edge of his door and he's using his cell phone camera or whatever. I walk around back to change my socks or to take a piss or something. I come back out front and that Cadillac's gone. So when I knocked on his door in the morning, he didn't answer, but a dog started barking. Barking. So I assume no one's home. I go around back to, I think I was there, I went around back into the bushes, take a piss or change my socks or something. Come back out and the Cadillac's gone. And then I receive a text that says, get your car out of my driveway, don't ever come back. And I don't blame him. Probably thought I was on meth. The things that I was saying, the way that I was acting, most people would have thought I was on meth. And that's why I say I know with absolute certainty. These people who I interacted with, Cue Ball, ATM, the ladies of Elysium in the parking lot who wanted me to go with them. But she was testing and she checked. She's like, you don't like meth? You sure? So I don't blame KC Kid for making that fear-based decision that he did. But that fear that even someone who invited me to their house decided, no, get the fuck out of my driveway and don't ever come back again. That fear that was elicited from him would have also been provoked out of everyone else. There's no one who wouldn't have shown that kind of response to the way that I was acting and the things that I was saying. But these people that I interacted with, they didn't give that response because they knew what I was going through. They had a better understanding of things than we do. They were backstage actors on the Truman Show. And that backstage might be no way to the Father except through the Son. The same Sun that I filmed a portal opening and craft transiting through it for a full 6 seconds. Posted that video, and within a few hours my channel got wiped. Maybe that's where they live, in something like Elysium. A world up there highly technologically advanced that doesn't have war like the movie Elysium. I looked it up the other day, hoping I could watch it online. Couldn't find a option to watch it for free on YouTube like many of the others. You can watch Jupiter Ascending for free on YouTube with a couple of commercials inserted. I suggest you do, because that's the same basic setup. That there's this highly technologically advanced civilization that lives in a separate world from us, where there is no war, there is no, well, not in Jupiter Ascending. In Elysium, they live basically like in a Dyson sphere, but it's more like a Dyson wheel, where there is no war, there is no disease, there is no poverty. And like Louis Farrakhan says, there's a giant mothership hovering above the earth, like in the movie Elysium. And when I was looking for that Elysium, they had a website called itsbetterupthere.com. I tried to go to itsbetterupthere.com. That's been disconnected. I don't think it exists anymore. It was just a website they had for the promotion of the movie. There's a reason I now call them the ladies of Elysium, or the Kindred of Elysium, because they're from somewhere else. They're like from backstage on the Truman Show. And they come out on stage and interact with some of the Truman, but they're still subject to the consequences of what happens while they're out here on stage. And that's why Cue Ball was so stressed out about me going and checking out that security camera. Or when we were in the Starbucks and he's looking around like, dude, you're drawing attention to us. Stop acting so weird. Because they're still subject to the consequences of what happens while they're here. But I can tell they are not motivated by the same things we are. They don't go to work every day. In fact, that's one thing ATM said. He said, yeah, people get mad. They get jealous. They don't have to go to work every day. That things just come to me freely. And I thought he was just kind of talking shit. Like whether, I don't know what I thought. But that is one thing he said, that people get jealous and they get mad and angry at me because I don't have to go to work every day like they do. Things just come to me. And that's what I've explained in a video that I titled The Love Economy. That if everything was taken care of for you through technology, and we're right at the brink of that being the case, what would motivate you to get up out of bed and do something with your life every day? If you didn't have to for your daily bread, if you weren't threatened with poverty, if you didn't have to because technology has advanced to the point where food, clothing, shelter, and even entertainment is provided for you free of charge, what would be your motivation to get up and do anything? And the answer is to create happiness. That would be, and I'm not going to go over the whole thing again. You can rewind my videos and find the one titled The Love Economy. Something about prana and resonance in the title as well, I think. Like in Elysium, what motivates them to get out of bed and do anything if they don't have to for money? And you're provided with all of your needs. I don't want to get too far off topic here. I want to get back to the people that I interacted with that proved to me. And their interactions with me mean more to me than my knowledge of the sun tunnel, the airborne aircraft carrier, the black dot craft, the plasma fire, and the microchipped population. All of those things combined don't mean as much to me in my life experience and give me a certainty that these interactions with these people do. When I get down and depressed sometimes and fucking I'm kind of wanting to just throw it all away and forget about it, all of these things would not suffice to give me the confidence and the certainty that there is a process happening here that I am a part of. The way that my interactions with Cue Ball and ATM, with the ladies of Elysium, with the cop, with both the cops, and with the locksmith. While I'm driving down the road, the spirit's flowing straight through me, and it's like I lock onto this car. And then it's leading me to that car. It's like it can use the billboard advertisements or any writing on the side of a car, draw your attention to certain words, reformulate them in your mind, and give you a secondary, just like the music and the movies have a secondary storyline embedded within them, provably. Once you can see it, you see it in a lot of movies and a lot of music. And the spirit's flowing through me while I'm driving, and it's like the spirit locks me onto this car. And then a car passes me like I'm supposed to be following that car or something. I'm just driving on impulse. And this car passes me, and it says something about the fast lane, like in their motto, take the fast lane to financial freedom, and blah, blah, blah. I was like, okay, it says fast lane, get over there. I'm in the fast lane. And it's like switching from car to car. The spirit's leading me. Okay, now follow this car. Okay, did you see that? That was a sign. Get in the fast lane. Okay. And then I'm locked onto a car or a van. It was a work van that's a locksmith that says on the back, we're the people you can trust with the keys to your home. And he pulls into a driveway, and the spirit says, okay, go talk to him. I don't know what I'm going to say. I don't know who this guy is. But I walk up to his passenger window, said, I heard you're the people I can trust with the keys to my home. He said, yeah, that's right. And he's smoking a cigarette with his window down. I said, yeah, I just joined God's Army. I'm kind of out looking for my marching orders or something. He said, yeah, God's Army did something for a friend of mine once. How about we go on in here and see if we can get you the parts you need? I said, okay. All right. Takes the last drag off his smoke, puts it out, says, you ready to go? I said, yep. And we go in. And he starts talking with the chick behind the counter about some part numbers. And she's interacting back and forth with him about some parts that they're looking for. Oh, no, that's a different order. It's probably this, that. One of them said, oh, so it sounds like it's probably a blower fitting. I said, yeah, that sounds about right. And they both look at me and kind of snicker and smirk. My blower fitting. Get it? Most people would be smart enough to keep this shit to themselves. I have other experiences that make me a little different. And so while she's interacting with him, talking about part numbers, going back and forth about, oh, no, this part, that part, different number, serial number. Oh, that means it's probably a blower fitting then. I said, yeah, that sounds about right. And they both kind of look at me and smile, and they go back and forth a little bit more. And a third chick comes up behind, a second chick. There's two chicks behind the counter and the dude that walked in with me. And somehow, the other chick that comes in, one of them, the dude that walked in with me is like, having a side conversation with one of these girls that's behind the counter while the other one's still looking up these part numbers and shit. And the spirit leads me to focus on this girl that's at the computer, and they, having this conversation, kind of disappear off into the background. And after she's sitting there typing a little more, I was like, so we find what we're looking for? She's like, oh, I don't know. I was like, oh, you're not looking up the order that they were talking about? No, she's handling that with him. Spirit tells me, let's go. You got what you came for. Okay. Go out, get in my car, and leave. Normal people would not respond to someone walking up behind them. I didn't block him in, but at the time, I wasn't in my right mind. I would have just as well pulled up right behind someone and blocked him in and walked up and said, Hey, I heard you're the guys I can trust with the keys to my house. I just joined God's army. I didn't block him in. But when someone walks up and says that, most people say, I don't know what you're talking about. Probably roll up their window, start filming me, and calling the cops. Thinking, I don't know what you're doing or what kind of ruse you're trying to pull on me here. That's not what he did. And with all of these other people that I interacted with, the ladies of Elysium, Cue Ball and ATM, I really have to stretch my imagination to imagine that this guy interacted with me the way he did, and he wasn't part of this same network of people who are in this world but not of this world, and were interacting with me for the purposes of interacting with me. That's why they were there. That's what they do. It wasn't their first time Cue Ball and ATM have interacted with someone like me and the things that I was going through and the state of mind that I was in at the time. Wasn't the first time. And they both said they had gone through the same experiences. So when this guy says, yeah, God's army did something for a friend of mine once. How about we go on in here and see if we can get you the parts you need? Some stranger comes up to you saying some shit like that. Regular people don't respond that way. Technically, they're aliens, but they look just like you and me. But you can see from their function, they're very different. Their form is just like you and me. There's two other people that I interacted with that show me that this process that I'm a part of is like supernatural. One of them is a warehouse worker. Just like when I followed the locksmith into the parking lot, Spirit led me there. Just like when I followed the Spirit into a different parking lot and unloaded all of my shit. I followed the Spirit into a parking lot once, and it's like a warehouse with a dock, like where semi-trucks would back up to the dock that's a few feet above the ground, like 3-4 feet above the ground, where their bumper hits with the dock and they can load and unload semi-trucks. And I go in, and I see this guy. He says, what are you looking for? I started saying some shit about compassion or love and acceptance or something like that. He's like, you came to the wrong place. We ain't got none of that here. And so I look up and reconnect with the Spirit and said, I'm looking for the truth about myself without fear of what I might discover. And he gets a big smile on his face and says, oh, well, you just keep doing what you're doing then. can use that exit over there. I could chalk that guy up to some guy that just was trying to, okay, you keep doing that. There's the exit. But with all the other people who I interacted with that were clearly part of a network of people that were there for the purpose of processing people through this process, interacting with them in the way that these other people I interacted with, pretty sure that guy was also one of them. And there was one person who I ran into along the way that was on the same journey I was. And I was making a video showing all the images, the patterns, it's like pareidolia, where you see faces in a place where it's not really a face, but you can see a face. And this is what happens when the right and left brain, the right and left hemispheres come together, and they're both working in tandem, I believe. And I was making a video showing, man, these images are everywhere, and grease splatters and the dirt and the concrete, everywhere I look, man, I can see like a whole nother layer. And the best way I can describe it is like one of those 3D movies where you got to wear the glasses of red and blue. And if you take the glasses off, it looks like everything splits into two layers. The outline and then a secondary outline of every image on the screen. Like instead of a hand, it's two hands with the glasses off, a red and a blue outline. And then when you put the glasses on, those two outlines come together to form the three-dimensional image. When you take the glasses off, everything separates into two outlines. I could see a whole nother layer of the world as if I had a pair of those glasses on. Those glasses in the movie They Live are referencing ultraviolet light, and our light spectrum is going to have a lot more ultraviolet in it, like everyone gets the glasses put on them at the same time. And that tree, it's one tree, just like the grass, looks one way in one light spectrum, looks a completely different way in the other light spectrum. Likewise up here with the tree, it's one tree, but the leaves over here in this light spectrum look a lot different than the same leaves on the same tree when you see them in the other light spectrum. I'll include links in the description titled something to the effect of Eyes to See in the UV Spectrum of the Age of Aquarius, the UV Blacklight Spectrum of the Age of Aquarius, which contains pieces of James True's videos where he says exactly the same thing, and J Dreamer's videos where he says exactly the same thing, that the light spectrum changes, and the J Dreamer's cosmology, he explains why. The James True cosmology, he explains now what we call black light, ultraviolet, actually shines purple. And there's a song, baby, I'm just having fun underneath the purple sun. The secret societies worship something they call the black sun. Black sun, like black light, puts off ultraviolet. Violet is purple. Underneath the purple sun, they're referencing the same thing. And that ultraviolet light is what's referenced in the movie They Live with the Hoffman lenses. Those lenses, they outlawed the chemical that you use to make Hoffman lenses for a long time. And you couldn't buy ultraviolet glasses to see in the UV spectrum. They are available, they're hard to find. And they made the chemical illegal for quite a while. And the only thing the chemical is used for is making those lenses. It's not like someone can also use it as a drug or something. And then James True, the clips from his videos that I use, I made 2 or 3 videos on this UV blacklight spectrum of the Age of Aquarius. James True says that the RGB spectrum, red, blue, green, is based on white light, where you add all the colors together and it equals white. This other spectrum, where he says is the only way we get the color magenta, is based on black. And instead of being additive, where they all add up to white, it's subtractive, where you subtract each one of these colors from black. I would have to watch it again, but he's referencing black, light, a different spectrum, and whether or not you like it, in the age of Aquarius and the light of Corona, you just went from 1080p to 4K or 8K resolution in your abilities to see. Back to the people. I think this is the last one that I'm going to talk about. I think it's the last one there is. The guy that I met on the way there, when I'm seeing these things, that's where I went off. When I'm seeing these things all over, and it's a bit like those 3D movies, where I'm seeing a whole nother layer of reality. Images everywhere. Almost like Simatics created this world and left an imprint of the image of God everywhere through the vibratory frequencies. So whether you're painting something or running some stucco or laying some asphalt or some oil splashes on the ground, these cymatic frequencies embed an image in any substance, material, or medium. And I'm seeing it everywhere, and I'm filming the ground, I'm talking about it, I'm showing it. I'm sure people watching that video say, this guy's just fucking nuts. And I film the car next to me and say, look at this guy. His car's packed full. He's on the same trip I am. And I continue filming, and the guy comes out of the restaurant and says, hey, I heard you were taking pictures of my car. Is there a problem or something? He was very passive like that, stuttered a little bit, like he was timid, didn't want to approach me and sound aggressive or hostile. And I pushed pause on the camera. I should have fucking, say that again. If I was in my right mind, I would have documented a lot more of this, but I wasn't worried about documenting things. Anyway, I pushed pause and I talked to him for a minute. I said, yeah, it looks like you're on the same trip I am. Look at my car. Ass to the ground, loaded with everything I got. He looks at my car. I'm from Utah. You can see I've driven quite a ways. The car's dirty. And he looks at me and he's like, so where are you headed? You got a destination yet? I said, nope, but I'm going. I don't remember exactly the sequence, but I remember when I asked him, where are you headed? I think I asked him first. I said, it looks like you're on the same trip I am. Look at my car, loaded, ass to the ground with everything I got. He looks at my car. I said, where are you headed? He looks up at the sky and starts to tremble a little bit in his voice and goes, I say, yep, you're on the same journey I am, brother. He said, so where are you going? You got a destination or a location or a specific place you're going? I said, nope, but I'm going. We received the calling and we went. We made it. He said, again looks up at the sky. I don't think we made it yet. I said, I think we have. We received the calling and we're going. And I think I told him something about me headed out near the Mormon temple on the Kansas City, Missouri borderline. He said, but I'm not even Mormon. I said, neither am I, but we received the call and we responded. We made it, brother. And if I was in my right mind, at the end of the conversation, he's like, all right, I think I'm going to go back in and finish my breakfast in here. I said, all right. And I jumped back in my car and started filming again, except the camera was upside down when I started filming again. Because I didn't realize that the camera was upside down because the image on my end stays vertical. But on the other end, you can see that the camera's upside down and the thumbnail image of that video is my face upside down, and it's titled Who Made Who? Like the AC/DC song, Who Made Who? Who Made You? And if I was in my right mind, I would have gone in there and asked that guy some questions. So, how did you end up here in this parking lot? If you don't know where you're going, and when I ask you, if you don't know where you're going, how did you get this far? Where did you come from? What inspired you to drive up to this point? Because it sounds like you're on the same journey I am, and I'm just as bewildered about how I ended up here and where it is that I'm going. So maybe we have some things to offer one another in terms of being able to understand and have a conceptual understanding of the experiential knowing that we both have about both of our experiences and how we ended up in this Flying J or whatever kind of truck stop it was. But I said he's on the same trip I am before he came out from the restaurant and confirmed it. he was on the same journey I was. I guarantee he'll never forget me, just like I'll never forget him. I wish I would have had a little bit more interactive experience, ask a few more questions. Like I said, if I was in my right mind, if I had come to my senses, I definitely would have asked a lot more questions to get some details, but it didn't matter at the time. I knew what I knew, and I didn't need some sort of conceptual understanding. I knew that I'm on the journey. I received a calling, and I'm going to the destination to find out what's at the end of this calling without fear of what it is I might discover. And things pass through my mind. Well, what if it's like a Freemasonic bloodletting ritual and they're putting out the signal to draw you into their ceremony and you're going to find yourself surrounded by... What if it's the underground base of reptilians? And any of that shit didn't faze me. For all I knew, it could have been any of that. The only way to truly have love in your heart is to not have fear. The two cannot exist simultaneously at all. If there's fear, there's not love. The only way to truly have love in your heart, in any area, to any extent, is to not have fear in that area and to that extent. And that was part of what the whole process was about. Relinquish your fear of what you might find, and only then will you discover the truth about yourself. Until then, the fear of what you might find will prevent you from going on such a journey the likes of which I did to discover these truths about myself. I'm kind of conflicted about James True and the way he does what he does and the things that he says. But I think there's a lot of validity to a lot of the things that he says. And one of those was that these Freemasons, remember I showed you a video? Oh, yeah, you're all Freemasons. Yeah, you're all Freemasons now. One of these videos that he made, he said the Freemasons have made it through every reset. And there does definitely appear to be a network of people who embed this secondary storyline within the movies and the music. Remember in Willy Wonka, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, or whatever it was, it said, "We are the makers of the music." There appears to be this network of people who tell this story and embed it within the music and the movies. And I don't believe it's for just talking to one another. Oh, hey, shout out to you. Hey, shout out to you too. They embed these messages for us, the initiates. The initiate must initiate himself, and we are in the collective initiation like Greg Braden spoke of in his video series Awakening to Zero Point, and then the secondary add-on Beyond Zero Point, the collective initiation. And it is in that secondary part where he talks about the spiritual nature of pole shift. And Awakening to Zero Point is all the technical stuff. He used to work for Lockheed Martin, helped make the spacecraft, the probes, and shit like that. So he appeals to the left brain with very technical knowledge in Awakening to Zero Point. And then he appeals to the spiritual side or the right brain in Beyond Zero Point, the collective initiation. And he says if you don't like the word spirit, you can just use the word electromagnetic frequency and you're pretty much saying the same thing. That equates to the blue plasma and the red plasma. Electromagnetic frequency and spirit are just pretty much the same thing. Motivating forces. And there appears to be this network of people who understand the story of the reset or the plasma apocalypse. And they embed this knowledge of whatever this story is, even if we've misinterpreted some of the symbols and the meanings. Once you know there's a story and you can see some of the symbols that are referencing some of the parts of the story, you start to see it in almost all of the music and the movies. So even if we've got part of the storyline that they're trying to convey a little bit wrong, there is definitely 100% factual, irrefutable, undeniable that there is a storyline being embedded within all these movies and music, because you can see these repeating patterns of symbols and imagery. And even if you've got the storyline a little twisted and some of the symbols don't mean exactly what you think they did, you can still spot the same basic pattern being repeated in all the movies and the music. And one of them is the hero's journey, where you travel into the unknown world, into the weird, bizarre world, get the elixir, the jewels, and bring them back to the normal world, like the song by Duran Duran, as I try to make my way through the ordinary world. Somehow I have survived. And in this hero's journey that is embedded in almost every movie and every book, it's almost like a supernatural force. Like you almost can't write a book or a movie without seeing that the hero's journey is once again embedded. And no one denies that. That is like mainstream, not fringe theory, tinfoil hatty shit. The hero's journey is embedded within almost every movie and book. That's what we're here doing. That's what I did. And this is the elixir that I brought back to offer. And even if it doesn't, I can't offer you the knowing I have. It can only be obtained through experience. And even after having had the experiences that I do, I have experiential knowing. I don't have conceptual understanding. Entirely. My understanding is very incomplete. But with the knowing that I have, it makes going through this process of life a lot more exciting, a lot less fearful. Knowing that I'm part of this process, knowing that there's something beyond death. My mom proved it the day she died. We're not going to get into that right now. But Mike Smith died a few hours later in a mysterious fire that's only mysterious to people besides her son that revealed plasma fire to the world. Oh, no, that's not mysterious. Here, let me show you. That's called plasma fire. Here, let me show you all the details and the markers and the signatures and the burn marks and the patterns that it leaves behind that's unlike any other fire. Yeah, that's a form of electricity. You know, like Samvardhaka fire, which destroys all that displeases Indra, the god of Hinduism. Like the seraphim or burning ones of Christianity. Seraphim? Yeah. Like the jinn of Islam. You know, where we get the word genie. The jinn that are made of smokeless fire. They're an angel or a demon. I guess it depends on your perspective. The guy who gets burnt up by the Samvardhaka fire would say that's a demon. But the people who are on the other end of the spectrum might say that's an angel. It's all relative. But my mom proved on the day she died, once she got on the other side of the veil, that there is a world on the other side of this life. That's not the end when you die. And that there is an accounting. Everyone's held accountable for the things they did. Even people that thought they got away with shit 50 years ago. It's a different subject. I don't really want to get too deep into that right now. Probably ought to bring this video to an end. Because I feel that was a pretty good place to bring it to an end. I discussed all the people that I met along the way during my journey that proved to me my experiences with them mean more to me when I get down on my luck, not my luck, down in my attitude and my countenance and my demeanor and my feeling and my internal world of mental and emotional and spiritual set point. I remember those experiences and those interactions with those people, and they mean more to me than plasma fire, airborne aircraft carrier, black dot craft, microchip population. I know there's one that I'm missing here that I've already recited before. Sun tunnel. It's kind of a biggie to not mention and forget about, isn't it? The sun tunnel. A stargate that opened up right in front of us. Right in front of my camera for a full 6 seconds. That got my channel wiped out. That proves that's the doorway. That proves whatever I recorded is top secret national security shit, not lens flares, not imagination. And it's just one of the many things that came to me in such a short sequence of time. It's very illogical and irrational to think that you just stumbled upon all of these things in such a short sequence, and it was just all random coincidence. It makes much more logic, reasonable, and rational sense to think that all those things that did coincide with an orchestrating, coordinating force, an intelligent force that orchestrated and coordinated all these experiences in your life. So I think I'm going to leave it there. But more so, and kind of along the same point, there is an orchestrating and coordinating force that led me to Independence, Missouri, that these people who I met, they are also interacting with that same orchestrating, coordinating force that you might call Holy Spirit. Whatever that force is behind the scenes that drew me there, also brought them there for this rendezvous, for this interaction, for the purpose of interacting with me, giving me some casual conversation that later on in my life I'd be able to look back upon, and maybe even leaving some things in my car, like their hats and their glasses and their stuffed animals and stuff, so that I would look back and know that those people weren't just in my head. And that my interaction with them, the fact that I didn't even know where I was going until I was 3/4 the way there, but then once I got there, they were there to meet me and greet me as if I was the guest of honor, proves that the force that led me there also led them there. And that's why when I start to try to reconsider, maybe I can re-explain and reinterpret all my experiences to fit them back within the bookends of known reality, I would be able to do that a lot easier if it weren't for all those experiences with those people. Those experiences with those people prove to me and remind me you're working with supernatural forces. God works in mysterious ways, and even though you don't understand it, don't try to not know what you know from your own experience. Accept that your experience was what it was. It is what it is. And since then, the spirit has been dialed down from like an 11 to a 2. But I've continued to receive the spirit, the still small voice within, at a level of a 2. First, it had to be cranked up to 11 because synapses that fire together wire together, and synapses that no longer fire together no longer wire together. Think of this in terms of habit-forming things like tobacco or alcohol or sex. Anything that gives you a dopamine hit, the synapses fire electrochemically over a long distance, and then this one catches it, and you get the dopamine hit from whatever that was. And if you continually, repeatedly do that, instead of firing over a longer distance like Wi-Fi, synapses that fire together repeatedly wire together. They hook up a hard line of neurofiber between those two synapses. If you repeatedly, continuously engage in that behavior that gives you that, and that is what causes the withdrawal when those synapses are no longer firing together. But the reason it's for efficiency. When you constantly do this all the time, instead of firing electrochemically over the distance, just put in a hard wire of neurofiber. Those synapses that fire together wire together. And then synapses that no longer fire together no longer wire together because they don't need it anymore. You're not having that anymore. So at first, the spirit has to be cranked up to an 11 to send that signal and have it received over there on the other end. Then once you've been doing it for a long time, intentionally changing from transmitting to receiving in your internal world, I can tell the difference when it's my own thoughts that kick in or when I'm in receptive mode. And I'll be in receptive mode and then kick into a transmission mode or biobot transceivers, transmitters and receivers. I'll be in receptive mode and then hear my own thoughts start kicking in, and I can tell the difference now quite easily. At first, you might not be able to. But after the repetition over the years of continuously going into this state of receiving the still small voice, and you can feel the difference, and you can feel that shift when you went back into your own thoughts. Oh, and it happens within seconds. Like, I'll be receiving and listening and listening and receiving, and then I'll realize, oh shit, I'm thinking. I'm the one in my head now doing the thinking. Go back to receptive mode. Go back to listening instead of speaking internally. So at first, the spirit had to be cranked up to 11 for those neurons, those synapses to fire together. And after they've been firing together for a long enough time, they wire together, and you can get the signal through when it's only cranked up to a 2. Because synapses that fire together wire together. So yeah, I'm going to wrap this up here, but having this as a basis for future conversation, for future video, I'll now be able to speak freely about some things with the basic premise that I don't have to define and describe and explain all the details. I can just assume you guys have all kind of caught up. And I know I cannot convey to you the knowing that I have. Again, it's experiential knowing without conceptual understanding. You can only gain the knowing I have through your own personal experiences. And I certainly don't expect you to understand that which I can't even understand, and I was the one who had the experiences. But for the basis of future conversations, now I can say things without feeling that I have to explain and define all the details. In order to make this statement, I have to make all these other bottom line foundational statements in order to say this. I'm going to be able to just have a conversation now and say some things that this is a prerequisite understanding in order to be able to understand these other things. People that don't know what I'm talking about, that's not who I'm talking to. People who do know what I'm talking about are the ones that I'm going to be talking to.